Welcome back. Let's turn to the big focus story now. This is about the student suicides that are happening with an alarming regularity in Kota, supposed to be a hub for coaching for competitive examinations like medical and engineering, for the medical and engineering institutions. So 3 students preparing for competitive exams in Rajasthan's Kota allegedly died by suicide on Monday. The boys were 16, 17 and 18 years of age. 2 of the students, Ankush and Ujjwal, were friends from Bihar. They were staying in rooms next to each other. They were found hanging in their room. One of them was preparing for his engineering college entrance, while the other was studying to crack the medical college entrance tests. No suicide notes have been found yet. The third student, Pranav, came to Kota from Madhya Pradesh. He was preparing for NEET, that is the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, a pre-medical entrance examination. He died by consuming poison. All 3 suicides happened in the same day. Back-to-back incidents of student suicide. Now, according to a factual report prepared by the Kota police, empty packets of zinc phosphide were recovered from Pranav's hostel room, and traces of the substances was also found in his food. Let's listen in to the inputs coming in.
2 कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट के बालक हैं, बच्चे जिन्होंने सुसाइड किया है, जिनकी डेड बॉडी पोस्टमार्टम के लिए पोस्टमार्टम होम पर लेकर आए हैं। इसकी कार्रवाई जारी है।
दोनों पढ़ रहे थे सर?
दोनों विद्यार्थी हैं।
कोचिंग छात्र?
हाँ, कोचिंग छात्र।
और एक ही हॉस्टल के हैं दोनों?
एक ही पीजी हॉस्टल में रहते हैं।
दोनों एक ही हॉस्टल में रहते थे। एक का नाम अंकुश है, दूसरे का नाम उज्ज्वल है।
कौन से हॉस्टल में?
हॉस्टल का नाम सर मैं तो दूसरी जगह रहता था, मैं तो जानने था पहला वाला।
तो ये एक ही हॉस्टल में सुसाइड किया है?
जी,
कभी लोगों
एक ही हॉस्टल।
आमने सामने ही रहते थे?
मेरा छोटा भाई जैसा था।
कब से यहाँ पे रह रहे हैं?
ये क्लास 9 से ही है, क्लास 8 से।
क्या कर रहे थे?
पढ़ रहे थे इंजीनियरिंग।
कौन इंजीनियरिंग की तैयारी कर रहे
ये 11th में थे। दूसरे वाले को मैं उतने अच्छे से नहीं जानता हूँ, वो तो उनका ही है।
ये दोनों दोस्त थे क्या भैया?
थोड़े मोड़े बस जान पहचान थी बस।
कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं दोनों? ये
एक तो सुपौल का था, त्रिवेणीगंज, एक बेतिया का बोल रहा था।
बिहार के थे?
बिहार के।
And what goes behind this mindset of committing suicide?
Yeah, first of all, teenage suicide is a very big problem, especially in educational hubs all over the country, be it Kota, be it other places where a lot of teenage students are coming. The primary reason for that is the pressure of expectations which is there from the family who has sent their kids so far. Second, the coaching centers where they are studying. It is portrayed to the students that if you don't clear this exam, whatever you're here for, it is almost like a do or die situation for you. So that extremeness is created in their mind. And the third thing is sometimes the students create a lot of self pressure that they are so far away from family and they have to do well. If they don't do it, then their life is over. That is one major thing. Second thing is many students who are basically introverted in nature, they are not able to develop a lot of friends while they are going to such a new environment. So they feel very, very out of place. They are not getting anybody to share what they are going through. If this continues for a long time, as in let's say if I am in Kota and I am not having many friends, I am not being able to cope up with the study that is being taught to me for any reason, and along with that what's happening is I am not getting any support. So in the long term, I start becoming more self-critical that I'm not good for anything, that I'm worthless, that I'm wasting my father's or my parents' money. And on top of that, I'm having people who are doing very well. I look at them and I feel even more worthless. I go into a cycle of guilt. If this happens for a long amount of time, some patients or some kids go into clinical depression.
So now let's look at the shocking data from this year alone. Why are we saying that Kota particularly is notorious for student suicides? Look at the numbers there. In April this year, 3 students committed suicide. May this year, again, 4 other students died by suicide. On July, 1 student, and December, 3 students again this month, this year. So that is how it is with the situation in Kota, which is a coaching hub. I am now joined on the program by Kavyal Sedani, who is a counsellor and a therapist, Pradeep Rawat, who is the founder of United Parents and Students of India, and also Nitin Kandari Gusain, who is a UPSC aspirant. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Big Focus. I want to begin with you, Kavyal. Since you are a therapist, you are a counsellor, and to hear of these kind of instances, I'm sure it sounds like a familiar narrative to you. The exam pressure, the way we are calling it competition kills. This is unhealthy competition, perhaps of the worst kind, isn't it? What pushes a child, what pushes a teenager to this extent, and what can we do about it, Kavyal?
I speak to parents very often about this, that if you are giving birth to a child, give birth to the child so that the child can have a life of his or her choice. Do not give birth to a child to fulfill your dreams and ambitions. कि हमारा बच्चा बड़ा होके हमारा कल्याण करेगा, हमारे फैमिली को आगे लेके जाएगा. Children are hearing this from the day they are born, especially the ones that are coming from the smaller cities. They don't have too much of an experience of life besides the academic pressure. And that's unbelievable. Nobody, not you and me as adults, can stand that kind of pressure. There is no balance. Especially from the time the kids get into the 8th grade, the mothers start getting paranoid. Now it's your 9th, now it's your 10th. Forget your friends, forget your sports. Everything has to be about studies. Parents give up their jobs to monitor the child in their 9th and 10th grades. It is, if you lose the balance, you lose everything. There has to be a life besides and in spite of studies. Plus, the mindset in our country is such that the parents don't notice the depression or the anxiety in children unless it starts showing up in their mark sheets. You got to start being more intuitive about, is my child happy? Is my child sad? We always tell our children that, or we tell the world that, hey, I just want my child to be happy. That's not true. We just want our children to be successful. And our actions are always towards making sure they are successful. But it is what is creating this sense of doom around us. We are losing more and more children. It's very heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. These are teenage kids. This is India's youth we are talking about. These are impressionable minds. And this is the future of the country that is at stake. If this is the kind of pressure that we are putting on them, Kavyal, you are saying this is a lot to do with parental pressure. But is there also an element of our children not being able to cope? They go into a direction which is not meant for them, perhaps. And I can take the point that they are pushed into that direction by their parents, but how can we empower them? How can we make a child stand up for himself or herself? If you're saying parents come with this compulsion that, they transfer their baggage to the children, how can we make children themselves, teenagers themselves, stand up for themselves? I'll come back to you, Kavyal, on that. Pradeep Rawat, do you agree that a lot of it has got to do with parental pressure? There's a very disapproving style of parenting that I notice in India in particular, that all the time parents have this issue, have this tone of speaking to kids in a very disapproving manner, and the children have this pressure of constantly proving it to their parents. They do not want to fall in their eyes of their parents. That's the last thing they want. Do you see that as a reason here, Pradeep Rawat?
Yeah, I in fact totally agree with the fact that yes, this is a vicious cycle starting right from when the child has to get admission even in the nursery classes. Even then there is a competition among parents to get to the best of institutes or best of schools. Same cycle carries on when the child goes to class 9th or 10th. Imagine these 3 kids who joined these Kota institutes. I think two of them joined 3 years back and one joined 2 years back. That means they were 16, 14 or 15 when they went into a place called Kota, from their homes, away from their parents, away from their families. And you can very well imagine the kind of pressure and the kind of feeling they have. Suddenly they are uprooted from their families. They are no more living with their parents. They are not living with their friends. They are put into a place where there's constant pressure, constant vigil, not just by the institutes they are studying in, but the peer pressure is also there. And of course, when the parents talk to them, they also feel, the child of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 or 19, they constantly feel the pressure that, yes, I have to come up to the standard which my parents have set for me. And yes, as previously mentioned, parents, if they are not able to succeed to become doctors or engineers, they want to succeed through their children. But what they don't understand, not every child is supposed to become a doctor. Not every child is supposed to become an engineer. You can become anything you want. But until and unless we as parents decide that we must allow our children to do what they want and then guide them accordingly. That is the best way forward. Otherwise, this vicious cycle will continue. Children will continue to feel the pressure and this cycle will go on.
This is a vicious cycle. That is what you're telling us. And I quite agree with you that unless we do something to break this vicious cycle, this will only continue. But let's hear it from Nitin Kandari, who is a UPSC aspirant. We have been talking about what students go through, what pushes them to this level. You are an aspirant of a competitive exam as well. What is it about about qualifying in these exams that pushes you to kill yourself? What kind of pressure are we talking about, Nitin, here?
Well, Frida, I believe we are actually talking about the perceived pressure specifically, No parent would ever want his child to be dead. They actually never, tell them that if you don't clear this exam, you will be of no worth and all. But this is something which we perceive because everyone just comes up to us and, tell us that I really hope that you'll clear this examination. I really hope that, you will be the one who will take your family ahead and clear this examination, build your status and everything. So in a way, the exam becomes, it just becomes a part of your life. If you're able to go on and clear the examination, you're successful in your own eyes and also in the eyes of society. But apart from that, if you're not able to clear it, it's not something which only hampers you because somewhere down the line, everybody knows that you're preparing for an examination. The routine becomes as such, that when you start preparing for any examination, it starts with, reading newspaper, then you go on and read NCRTs, you go on and read advanced books, you go and solve mock papers, you go on and do each and everything possible, which, you can do. You don't have time even for meeting your friends, your families, and specifically
this is a very important point. Yes, the punishing schedule, Kavyal. I wanted to, wanted you to throw some light on this. That whenever there is an imbalance, because I want you to also tell us about suicides. What drives a person? Because as I can imagine, it would have to kill your spirit to the extent that you feel there is nothing left to live. Is that how it happens when people get suicidal, Kavyal?
Yes, it literally is like, I do not see an end to this tunnel. The person starts feeling like me being alive is causing more misery to everybody and my death would be easier on everyone. The perception completely changes. They feel they are completely lonely. What the parents have to start doing here is that we focus too much on the achievements of the child since the child is born. Oh, my child got this trophy. Oh, my child got this certificate. My child stood first. We got to stop doing that. We need to start bringing back the focus on who my child is. Our children are not always going to succeed. But if they don't succeed, they should stop seeing that as a problem. They should know that I have a lot more in my personality that will help me succeed later.
And what is it about these places like Kota, Kavyal? What is it about? Is it like a dark chamber that kids are pushed into and there is no escaping other than death? Because once you are there, and that's why we are saying it's like almost as if perform or perish. Is that the kind of choice we are giving our teenagers? And these locations, these hubs of coaching centers, how do we penetrate these areas and bring some light over there and get down there? Are counselors like yourself willing to go there, counsel teenagers? Can there be some system put in place as a treatment to this kind of a malady?
There are a lot of counselors all over. There are a lot of people reaching out. But the children, the teenagers themselves do not see this as a problem because, everyone is going through the stress, so they think this is normal. A lot of parents, when you tell them that, Mama, I am going through this, they'll be like, kuch nahi, aisa kuch bhi nahi hota hai, tu bas padhai mein dhyan de, sab kuch theek ho jayega. So they don't find that support and they find it, in fact, like a failure that, oh my God, am I the only one who is so weak that can't cope up? Look at my neighbor, look at my roommate, everybody's coping up but me. So the problem obviously is me because everybody else is fine. And that's not true. We need to speak more and more about this. Maybe more workshops are needed, more awareness is needed. And children need to put themselves through certain career counseling, psychometric tests. Maybe some of them are born to be actors. Maybe some of them are born to be in logistics. But
Yes.
the awareness of our career choices is
The
so
herd
little.
mentality, isn't it, Kavyal? It pushes
Yes,
parents. And I want to take that point to Pradeep Rawat, what you said about parents often dismissing their children and their trouble, saying, ye to kuch bhi nahi hai, padhai mein dhyan do, you are just digressing, or things like that. Isn't that a very dangerous trend? Shouldn't this be a wake-up call for all parents of teenagers? And I'm one of them.
Absolutely, I agree. In fact, I have been in touch with a lot of parents, being a founder of Parents Association, and one thing I've realized: yes, a lot of parents are waking up. A lot of counselors have also helped. Now parents also understand not every child is supposed to become a doctor or an engineer. He can become a MBA chai wala also. MBA can become a chai wala and succeed like hell. So there are a lot of fields, a lot of people are getting exposed to the things also. But ultimately, it's up to the parents, not just you and me. Awareness has to come from within. We need to understand that child, excuse me for my voice, child has to be given the freedom to understand what he wants to do in life. And the very word success, it's a very kind of a word which I don't really understand. What do you mean by success? Success doesn't mean that a child has to achieve certain level of marks or certain level of salary or income, then he becomes successful. A man who's earning maybe 20,000 a month is a happy man. He's successful. A man who's earning 2 crores a month but not happy, not successful. So my definition of success is happiness more, less more of a money. But in this materialistic world, we compare everything with money. A child who's getting admission into a good institute, then being taken up for a very good job, getting a good salary, is appreciated by not only his parents, the peer pressure. Everybody says this is a successful child. So we need to change the definition of success. Success means child should be happy and he should be able to do whatever he wants. There should not be a
And
same
most parents will tell you this, just that they don't practice what they preach. Like Kavyal said in the very beginning, hum chahte hain bacche khush ho. But in practice, they're doing just the opposite. It's a very dangerous trend. This is like quicksand. It's like a quagmire that we are pushing our kids into. And I would also put the onus on the government, like we are putting the onus on the parents, to take a look at what's going on in places like Kota. Why so many suicides coming from these places where there are a plethora of coaching centers for competitive exams? I'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation.